I make around 450 to 500 a year.
450,000 per year.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
The war in Ukraine started in 24th of February. I was there in beginning of March.
Whoa. So you went right at the beginning?
Right. It's either that I made out of this alive and I can rebuild everything from beginning, or I would die and nothing would matter.
Welcome to Finance Action, the show where we take action. My name is Romain, and today I am with Tree. Tree, how are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Happy to be here, Romain.
Awesome. So, Tree, let's look at your profile. Tree, you are 29 years old. You are originally from Vietnam, but currently live in Seattle, and you work as a software engineer, but also as an entrepreneur. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, sweet. So let's look at the way you've rated your personal finances, and we have a ranking system that is based on emotions, from
Right.
chilling to Mayday. You've rated yourself as I'm okay, which is good to hear. Tell me a little bit, Tree, why would you rate yourself as such?
Even though I make relatively decent amount of money, I feel like I could be more disciplined and be thinking about how to invest or spend my money for the longer term aspects.
Okay. Yeah, actually, we are not going to be much thinking about really the debt situation because Tree doesn't have much debt, but more about how when you've come to a stage where you have a very strong income, like incredible income, what should you do in that front? And so I'm extremely excited about our discussion. We'll be discovering so many different areas from real estate to entrepreneurship and much more. So let's dive into your story, Tree. So, as always, we like to start looking at your income. How much do you make per year?
I make around 450 to 500 a year.
450,000 per year.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. That's impressive. So looking at how much does that provide you, and you mentioned you are, 29 years old. I mean, as, you may imagine at this point, you are far, far above the median for your age, which is 50,000. So you're almost 10 times that. But I'm sure, I mean, you must have worked for quite a bit. And it has probably cost you quite a bit of concessions to get to that level. But that brings you net at around $20,000 per month. How does that sound?
Yeah, that seems to be very much in the ballpark.
Yeah. But here I want to understand at 29 years old, Tree, how do you come to make 450,000? Walk me through how was your parkour to get to that? I mean, it's incredible.
I was willing to quit my job and just kind of restart from the beginning and spend like 2 years focused on just become a good software engineer. So I was doing like 14, 15 hours a day, every day, just doing coding, sitting on the computer and then read a lot of books. And by the time I come out of it, I almost like double my salary
Wow.
in my first software position.
But that cost you 15 hours or 14 hours a day working on it.
Yeah, I think that's important when you want to. When I was young, I don't have any kind of obligation, and I have a vision that I believe in, so I just focus on it and nothing else.
Lucas, at the end of the day, to be honest, there is no surprise. There is no surprise. Tree here comes from a parkour where, not too many people can get stuck in front of a computer for 15 hours learning about coding for 2 years. So, it's a big concession, but look here, when you put the time and you put the effort, it clearly pays off, right?
Right, absolutely. I completely 100%. Hard work is 99% of the work anywhere.
Luck. I would like to say luck as well. Luck and opportunities be here at the right time, at the right moment, I think is also a key.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I want to come back here. A couple years ago, you decided to kind of switch. You had an existential crisis. Tell me more about that.
Almost 2 years ago, like I lost a few members of my families.
I see.
Almost at the end of COVID kind of thing. And so I was like, I need to refigure out my life because I realized that, as somebody who spent most of the time focusing on just like technical things, sciencey stuff, I was ignoring a lot of the personal side of things, like relationship, girlfriend, and things like that. So I quit another big tech position prior to that.
I see.
And I went to Ukraine and volunteered for 4 months.
Wow. So you went at the forefront of the war zone in Ukraine during what 2022 then?
Yeah, that was the war in Ukraine started in 24th of February. I was there in beginning of March.
Whoa. So you went right at the beginning?
Right.
So holy smokes. So right at the beginning of the war, you took a plane straight to Ukraine, dropping your job. Walk me through the mindset of that. Like what made you do this?
There's many things that I wanted to do. Number one was I didn't want to stay the same person that I was.
I see.
Like I don't want to just like I need to spend time on relationship and development and things like that. So I would rather like focus on this one thing and rebuild myself into a different person where I can see myself and making other people happy and kind of thing.
I see.
Number two was I'm a kind of person like I'm willing to drop everything, focus on this one vision alone situation, and just really dive deep into it. So that's the same thing I did for Ukraine, where I was like, I have all this money, I make good money, I don't need, but it's not making me as happy. And I was just like, oh, what if I can make all this money once, I can do it again. So I just kind of donate all of my money into this trip and
So
do
when you
everything I
say
could.
donating all your money, how much do you donate?
About 100 to 125.
$125,000. How did you donate that much money? How was it being donated? How did you even come to the country with that money?
You actually don't. It's more about purchasing things when you outside the country in Poland.
I see.
So typically, at that point, Ukraine wasn't you're not allowed to fly in and out of the country anymore.
Right.
So any volunteer who come inside have to go either to Poland or one of the neighboring border, and then you take a train inside it. So
I
by
see.
donation, it was just I was buying a tons of stuff for the war effort and bring it and donate it along. And then when I was inside the country, I also buy a bunch of food and then supplies.
So you were using your
bring
credit
back.
cards?
Yeah, I was just using my card, using my debit card, and whatever I can to just kind of push it along.
Wow. I see. How were the emotions at the time when you were there? Didn't you feel, I mean, I'm sure you were at some point feeling quite scared, no? I mean, how taking almost like a very fast decision that could have cost you your life? I mean,
Right.
we're not speaking about, cars or just credit card debt here. We're speaking about someone's life that at the time was in a very safe position in the United States, making $300,000 that the war declares. And a week later, you are in a country that's against one of the biggest countries in the world, helping to defend. Like, how do you prepare yourself mentally for something like this?
Number one, I was not thinking at all. I was like, I need to figure myself out. I have a goal, and that's just my personal development goal.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm figuring this out, I need to do something with my time. Like, if I can do something once, I can do it again. So money wasn't an issue for me. I was like full confident in myself. Is either that I made out of this alive and I can rebuild everything from beginning, or I would die and nothing would matter. Like, either way, I'm okay with it. So when I was there, for 99% of the time, I was just focused on the next thing that I need to do, and I just do it instead of thinking about what if would happen or letting anxiety to, like guide my decision.
Mm-hmm.
So when we think about people on the internet that say, hey, I go to Ukraine and donate and volunteer and things like that, most people will stay in the safe area, which is the west side of Ukraine.
I see.
Right. And then, but for me, I was like, I was there, but I wasn't feel that my action was as impactful as it could be. So I gradually moving from the west side of Ukraine, from Lviv to central side with Kiev at the capital. And then I moved more to the west side and to the east side and the southeast side. And that's where basically you're on the border with the Russia.
Wow. Okay. And after a while, then you just like, I've kind of spent everything I could and time to come back. Is kind of what was the thought decision to say, okay, I think I've done what I could at this point. How did you close that?
It was three things that came together at the same time. Number one was I was basically have like few $1,000s in my pocket. There's nothing else I could do. I'm trying to fundraising here and there, but it wasn't as impactful. Number two was my current job made the offer when I was volunteering. So during the day, I was driving around, driving people and supply back and forth. Then at night, where the country was on lockdown, I was interviewing. Yeah.
You were interviewing in YouTube. Okay.
And number three was there's one particular trip. So you know how I said the whole time I wasn't scared. I was focused on the next thing to do and just do it. There's one particular trip was where we go into this region, Bakhmut in Ukraine, which is right now is a very, very big, famous area where there's a lot of fighting and a lot of artillery going on. The whole time I never scared except for that moment. I was driving through this and artillery was just like raining on both sides of the car I was driving through.
And you have a video on TikTok about that.
Yes, I do have a video on TikTok. Yeah. Go. And that was the only time I was like, oh, wow. I truly am terrified. That was the time I was like, oh, maybe I am ready to live again. And, those are the three things that came together. I was like, oh, I need to go back.
Okay. Wow. So, while we are a finance channel at its core, when there are experiences like this that are just extraordinary, we love to give the time for our interviewees to speak their mind. And we hope that you appreciate as well this. However, again, at its core, we are a finance channel.
Right.
And
Thank
so
you, Romain.
I am going to bring you back with me on this, but know that I'm very appreciative of and very inspired by the amount of courage and just the financial implications of all this.
Right.
Because I don't know anyone that could do that. So what else to say except of my admiration for this? All right. So, coming back to our finance section, ladies and gentlemen, okay. So we'll be looking together now at your finance situation when it comes to your assets. So you've been in this position right now for about a year, is that right? As per what you mentioned. And over that time, you've been able to save quite a bit of money, actually, as we look into your assets right now, looking at some of your checking accounts. You actually have one with 2,300, another one with 18,000. You also have savings accounts with 21,000 on one. And so that kind of is quite a large amount of money stacked up, which is awesome to see. Definitely with such a high income, that gives you the opportunity to save fairly fast. So that's great. But what I'm also seeing that I really love to see is that you have invested quite a bit in your retirement funds. And I see here 4 IRAs account, one with 58,700, another one with 27,000. You also have another Roth IRA with 24,000. And a final one with $26,000. So while your trip coming back from Ukraine, you came, you mentioned, with just a couple $1,000s. I mean, when you came back from Ukraine, how much money did you have with you?
Probably about $3,000 to $5,000.
$3,000 to $5,000, nothing else.
Nothing else.
And over the course of this year, you've accumulated already about $177,000 worth of assets. Impressive. Impressive again. I mean, that's pretty sick, actually. But as you mentioned, however, my friend, you have quite a bit of aggressive spending, right?
Yes.
And so that leads me to my next section here, which looks at your expenses and your debt. Leading by one of your biggest expense, rent. How much do you pay for rent per month in Seattle?
I'm currently paying 2700 per month on Mercer Island for a 2 bedroom.
Okay, nice. Does that including utilities and so on?
Not including utility.
How much would you say on utilities you have?
About 500.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess, I mean, it's a 2 bedroom.
It's a 2 bedroom.
Oh, that's quite a bit on utilities, but that brings your housing expenses against your income at 16%. We like it to be below 28. So I mean, look, it's excellent. I have no problem telling you, please continue to afford your 2 bedroom. It's absolutely no problem on that. Actually, speaking of which, moving on to your next expenses, which is very important for you, your baby, your dog, right? That is a roommate to you. How much does your dog cost you per month?
Oh, he costs about $300
$300
to $400. Yeah.
Oh, I see. How
Yeah.
can you explain such a big expense on your dog?
His kibbles and his mixing.
I
So
see.
he's got one of those like expensive.
I see. And he's a pretty big one.
Human food.
How heavy is your dog?
He is 2 years old, 140-pound Irish Wolfhound.
There you go. So that pretty much is as big as it comes. Okay. All right. Cool. And you have pet insurance?
Yes, I do have pet
Thank
insurance.
you. Thank you. Pet insurance, ladies and gentlemen. Please do not forget on that. Okay. Moving on. You pay for your phone?
I do not pay for.
Oh,
my
you don't
phone.
pay for your phone. Okay. Who
Yeah.
pays for your phone?
My mom paid for my phone bill.
Your mom still pays for your phone bill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mom.
Does your parents pay for anything else?
So I don't have a car. I'm using my sister's car at the moment, and it's been a few years.
What car is it?
It's a 2014 Honda Accord.
Wow,
Yeah.
humble as well. So here, guys, you see a very interesting example of someone that makes $500,000 a year and still drives a 2014. No disrespect, of course, but you could very well afford, brand new electric cars or very expensive cars, but you're still staying humble with a Honda Accord 2014. So that's awesome. I mean, as I look into your expenses, you're probably spending $100 or so on fuel per month. That's about it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I want to start tackling a little bit about your debt situation. So, with such a high income, your debt is fairly conservative. Here I see one for 17,400 at 9%. That's a little bit steep. What is that for?
Oh, even though I don't have a car, I recently bought my mom a Range Rover.
I see.
So that's the the remaining debt I have on the Range Rover.
You bought it? Okay. Did you buy it new?
I bought it new. Yeah.
I see. Okay. And I guess that as I look into your statement for it, you seem to be paying it actually very fast.
Yes. The original principal was about 50.
I see.
I paid the 30K within a month of having the loan.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm planning on paying it down until a very small amount and keep it that way.
Okay. What's the purpose behind it? Is it like for credit purposes?
Oh yeah, it definitely for credit purposes.
Oh, I see.
Having multiple accounts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here what friend 3 is speaking about is how to maintain or continue to build a strong credit score. And one of the components around credit score is the amount of accounts that you have, especially the ones in good standing. Please, if you are stacking on collections or credit card debt or any bad debt, of course, this does not help you out, especially if you're missing on minimum payments per month. I don't want to go too much into that subject, but in your case, you're strategizing by maintaining an account open on this with a fairly small balance, costing you almost zero. You're going to run it probably through its term just so that you can record the payments every month, contributing to your credit score. Is that right?
That is absolutely right.
Okay, very sweet. So if I may ask, what is your credit score?
My current credit score depends on who the reporting was. But
Let's say Credit Karma.
Credit Karma is about 800, 810.
Okay, wow, that's exceptional as it ranges up to 850. And as you may have seen in some of our other videos, once you pass higher than 740, you're kind of in the gold zone where you're going to be able to benefit from all of the best interest. Higher than 740 is considered excellent, and that's where you kind of are in a good spot. So having an 850 or 740 is fairly much the same, to be honest. But how do you build an 800 score at 29? Did you start early?
I went to business school, and I was like, hey, credit score building is a very long duration kind of journey.
Yep.
I need to start as soon as I can. So when I was a freshman, I started out with secure credit card for Bank of America, and then gradually I built into multiple credit card, and now I have around 22 different credit cards.
Okay, very, very well. This is a strategy. I have myself over 15 credit cards as well. So I want to clarify something, please, because I don't want people to think, oh, now it's let's go, I'm going to have a ton of credit cards. That's not how the game plays. If you want to play the game, here is kind of your pitch in a minute. If you're young and if you want to start building credit score, look first to get safe accounts, that what we called safe credit cards. No, secured credit cards, I apologize. And generally, you will start with a balance of about $500. And how does that consist? You secure $500 to the bank, and that's kind of your credit limit that the bank gives you. What I recommend, please, is to start with big institutions. Don't go to, Joe at Mattress Bonjo and get a credit card from there. There is absolutely no benefit from doing this. Generally, for the most part, actually, I do not recommend departmental credit cards. It's generally not a very good idea. Depending, there are exceptional cases, but for the most part, I don't recommend that. And what you've done is very well. You start with a secured card, and then progressively you can grow that card into, upgrading your card pretty much to get additional advantages. As you do that, you also are progressively opening different accounts. This is going to allow you to increase your credit limit, which goes into your calculation when they're looking at how much credit limit you have available, especially for credit ratios. I don't want to be overly complicated, but your goal is to make sure that you open the right accounts early on, so you stack on age. Age is one of the components as per the credit score, and from that, then you continue to build until you have many accounts open in good standing with 100% payments. And that allows you to build an history, to build credit limits, and to build yourself here at 29 years old with 800 credit score.
Absolutely. That is the journey that I went on.
So that's great. So I'm not too concerned about this loan as you're taking care of it. Let's move on to another loan that you have, and it's about $22,000 worth of student loans. Did you pay your student loans as you were going through school, or did you just benefited from grants and so on?
Yeah, I got tons of scholarship early on, and then I got, my father helped me early on with my student payment, and then those are the remaining balance that from the student loan that I have left. All of them are federal.
Very nice. So when you say your parents helped, and I want to tackle this, do you actually come from money?
I don't come from money, no. My mom and 3 of my sister and myself come to the U.S. With nothing, no English, no knowledge of anything. We just kind of show up and then figure our way from there.
Okay. Those are self-built men, I would say. Okay, that's awesome. All right. So you see, guys, everything is possible as soon as you have the mindset, and please, the work. Nobody comes like this. It's not a surprise, right? You need to work. You need to have great luck and opportunities. But here, a successful story here with 3. Okay, I want to keep moving on as we think about. So I'm not going to want to tackle too much your expenses. Instead, I kind of want to look at your goals. So with such a high income, what are some of your goals?
I have 2 short-term goals.
Okay.
The primary one is I'm currently have my own startup.
I see. Okay.
And I'm looking to build a proof of concept for it first, and then potentially do a fundraising round at the end of this year.
Okay, very well. So if I may ask, what is your startup about?
It's more of a connection to activities. So
Okay.
let's say you want to go rock climbing, right?
Okay.
Or you want to go to music festival. And typically those are the kind of event that you don't really know where to find people that you need to go. Hey, I want to go rock climbing on Thursday at this hour. So this app allow people to like post it and connection and like connect people who want to do this activity together.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you would look for a specific activity, a location combined with timing, and then people will be like, "Oh, I'm coming with you through this." They can kind of sign up for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that is interesting. Very well. How far are you in the project on this?
I'm currently have the mobile app interface design. I'm still working on the backend side.
I see. And you're building this yourself?
Yes, just myself.
When do you build that? At night? What do you do?
After hours, I suppose.
Wow. Okay. So I mean that is definitely how do you leverage your time both by ensuring primary income and at the same time, of course, making sure that you have a personal project on the side. And to a certain extent, you know, guys, this show is not my full time. I do also have a full time working for a tech company as well. And so I do this on my side as well as a personal project, passion. And hopefully we'll see how that evolves, which links me actually perfectly to my ask. If you are interested in more content of this nature, please feel free to like and subscribe so you will have access to many more of our interviews. So sorry
Absolutely.
about this,
I really appreciate him being here. Like and subscribe.
Sweet. Okay. So funding. Yeah. So right now you are going through kind of proof of concept. Then you're gonna have to go looking for probably private investment. Is that what you're gonna
Right.
look for? Okay. And you're gonna want to expand your team at some point as well, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm potentially looking for seed or private equity fundraising later this year.
Angel
or early next
investors
year.
as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So very briefly here, I don't want to be overly complicated. When looking for investments at very early stage of company's creation, you kind of want to be looking for what we call angel investors. And angel investors are going to be individuals that generally are very wealthy, a group of individuals that are willing to take a bet on your project. Now, for the most part, they are looking for the unicorn because angel investors, they're going to invest in tens and tens of projects. And sometimes the amount varies on that, but they are just looking for one that's going to 100 times. You know, this is kind of how many of the world's biggest tech companies have been founded. For plenty of other startups, as we think about like Silicon Valley level, for example, that's kind of how it works. You know, people come, they pitch their project to angel investors, and then it gets into private equity, and it further devolves into different seeds of findings. Okay, I don't want to dive too much into this. However, I want to dive into your second goal, which is related to
Real estate.
real estate. Very well so. Okay, so real estate is potentially one of the best assets that someone could invest into as we think about diversification. Okay, so in this show, I speak a lot about investing into the S&P 500 because generally, when you don't have as much capital, you want to invest into the market or either retirement funds and so on. But you're mostly covered on that, so I don't want to stick too much to that. I want to look next level real estate investments. So real estate investments, I do myself real estate investment on the side. I actually have an Airbnb that is running in Arizona. Yes, a couple months ago, I bought an Airstream 1976 that I worked at night renovating in my backyard. And a life is not the component of just one, oh, I go to work here and then I earn income here. You constantly want to think, and you may not be forced of that, but personally, me, it's my passion. So I always look at different avenues of where I can increase my presence and increase my streams of income. So this Airstream is actually one of the options. But Airbnb,
I will definitely check that out.
Yeah, Airbnbs. So I want to very briefly with Airbnbs here because I've studied the subject quite a bit. It's a tough time for Airbnbs right now, my friend. Post-COVID, it was the El Dorado. Everybody was going into it. It was like, you know, money was falling off the trees as people were restricting, the restrictions of COVID were done, and it was kind of like, let's go for it. And so you had a ton of people that have been actually investing into what we call unique experiences. Generally, some of the best returns on Airbnbs are located nearby national parks. I mean, one of the biggest examples is Joshua Tree. Joshua Tree received such a boom of Airbnbs, and now I have partners and friends that are in the location that are actually very much struggling because there is oversupply for so much demand, especially in the environment that we are right now. with inflation being high, uncertainty in the economy, people are traveling less. So Airbnb to me, if I was to think about where's the value proposition today, based on my research, and I study this all the time. I'm very interested in this. It sticks within unique experiences. Okay, unique experiences. So either atypical locations, or atypical location destinations, or atypical propositions. Like A-frames. Those are very popular. Now, if you're going the route of Airbnb, you do not need to be local to it. I currently live in Seattle. My Airbnb is running in Arizona, and most of it is pretty passive for me. There are ways and situations for that, and if you're interested, I could potentially do a video on that. But there are ways to operate this without being locally to the destination. The returns on Airbnbs are going to be much greater if you play the game right than long-term rental, which is what I'm doing right now here. I'm a renter here. I have a landlord, an owner, and I'm paying every month, right? But the returns on Airbnb are much greater. However, as you may think, this comes as well with generally much greater involvement from the owner. You can't just put someone in the house and hoping that nothing's arise, have property manager, and collect payments every month. Airbnb, you have communications with renters on a daily basis, or with clients that come into your thing. You have maintenance, you have cleaners, you have there is so much going on with Airbnb, but the returns can be very fruitful. Okay.
Oh, for your Airbnb, do you have like a management company on the side who do that for you?
So I joined a couple of Facebook groups where I would look for people that would offer certain opportunities. And what I mean by that is I had an Airstream, a very unique proposition, fully redone, bunk beds, a very interesting interior. And I went to Facebook and I was like, okay, I have this Airstream. I would like to put it on a property. I do not have time to maintain it. I want someone that already has Airbnb experience that can maintain it for me. Let's make a contract. And I found someone in Tombstone who is running a vintage Airbnb resort. But when you want to think about investing into an Airbnb property, one of my biggest recommendations is to make sure on paper when you're making the financials for it that it still works as a long-term rental. Because you don't know if a location is going to have a change in policy. Sometimes they like, oh, you can have an Airbnb within a certain area of another Airbnb, or there is a cap, or there is a change in regulations, and then you need certain permits, and then it takes forever to get permits. Be mindful, guys. Be mindful of that. So that was kind of my choice with going the Airstream route, because something arises, I don't have a permit, I take my asset and deuces, So that's kind of was my idea around Airbnb. Were you ever considering doing Airbnb short-term rental or not really?
I consider both.
Okay.
One of the things I consider when thinking about Airbnb was, the same thing you did, which is like during a high beta market where money was cheap, and then everybody have money, they can travel, they can do whatever they want with the money, right? Then during a low time that we have now, a lot of people become more conservative. They do less travel. The occupancy rate become a lot less, and the predictability of the cash flow is no longer an important point.
So actually, that brings me into one of a very interesting point that is long-term rental play.
Right.
So long-term rental play, you have to be very strategic about it. Because for me, a long-term rental play in Seattle is not worth it. It's not worth it. The cost of housing here is so high compared to how much you can expend on rent. It's not worth it. You're looking at houses that are $800,000 that rent for $3,000 a month. So it's about being strategic. And again, I can, if there is interest in that, express my opinion about long-term rental market in the United States. I'm not an expert. I'm not a real estate agent, but I do my research. I look at data. I look at opportunities to win the game. This channel is about perfecting your personal finance game, looking at differentiation. And sometimes in your positions, you have options to look at portfolios. If you're well connected in your area, you can buy a portfolio of properties that are already being managed. So you're buying from an owner that has 10, 12, 15 properties. that are generally managed already by a property manager in space. And you're just here making sure that things are running smooth. But for the most part, it is fairly passive.
I can see that.
At its core, finance success is defined by diversification.
Yes.
Diversification. I am running a small Airbnb here that's giving me a little bit of passive revenue. I am constantly looking at deals just to expand my footprint, so that if the Airbnb falls, well, I'm not have all my eggs in one basket. If some of my properties here in Tennessee or Indiana falls, I am not stuck. You don't want to be stuck, go all in on something, and then if it doesn't work, which sometimes things just don't go the way they want, you're stuck. So it's about always diversifying your horizon. Okay, so as I think about you, if you were in your space, kind of wrapping up a little bit some of our recommendations. I don't want to tap too much into the specifics here of needs, wants, and so on. For the most part, what percentage are you saving per month of your income?
About 65 to 70%.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're saving over $10,000 per month. So I don't want to dive too much into the detail here because it's not relevant to you. What I'm thinking on your side is definitely continue to max out your retirement accounts.
Right.
You have a very strong emergency fund, $20,000. I mean, your expenses are so low that I'm going to say, do you need much? You're not living in a Rolls Royce or in a mansion. So to me, I'm comfortable with this. If I was in your shoes, I would continue to focus on that startup because, this is where you can hit the jackpot if it spikes.
Right.
And on the side, start looking at alternatives investments. Do you want to spend your time right now looking too much into real estate? I don't think so. Because personally, I do not see your time being the best used in this, because this requires a lot of time and it can create quite a bit of worries. It's not an easy market.
Right.
I've heard a horror story about renters. So I don't want to pitch an idea that, every landlord is jackpot. I have friends that have had so many issues with their long-term rentals. Right now here, I would say that I'm a great renter. I pay my bills on months and I don't see anything. But not every landlord has this situation. I rather invest into me, invest into my product, invest into this show, taking my time. This takes me time. This takes me efforts. We started a couple months ago with zero. We had no idea what we were doing. To you, where is that time spent?
Right. And I think you're doing an excellent job.
To you, where is your time best spent? Your time best spent, I would say, is in making sure you continue with your app. I would start looking for a financial advisor. You are at levels where I think that having a professional financial advisor to look at investment positions is a good play.
Right. Yeah. I think I definitely agree with you there. Because from a portfolio makeup perspective, right? We're both finance guys. So it's about risk-adjusted return for us, right?
Yep.
So from a risk-adjusted return, when I have this startup and this real estate side of things, they are the opposite side of the spectrum. The startup was very heavily risky, lots of time, very minimal investment with tremendous amount of return potentially.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, the risk profile is super high. It can fail any moment.
Yep.
Now, from the opposite side of the real estate is you have a lot of tremendous amount of information. You can make up your mind relatively with decent amount of research. Your risk profile very low.
Yep.
Predictability very high.
Yes.
So that's in terms of a portfolio makeup perspective, that's where I see them coming together if I were to diversify into different asset classes. And that's where, my initial thought for this was coming from. But bring back to your point, I think I do agree with you that because I'm still young and I'm still have a lot of potential in this space, spending more time on the startup make a lot of sense because I'm allowed to, with no responsibility, I'm allowed to take tremendous amount of risk.
Exactly.
A lot better than if I were to just do on the real estate side.
Yes, I agree. You are a high potential individual. But what I want to say ultimately as we wrap up our discussion tree is many of the finance action discussions that I've had so far have been about people kind of trying to get out of the situation. And in this perfect example here with Tree, I want to highlight thinking of how do you best position yourself to be diversified in your risk while still being able to enjoy a good life. This pushes kind of the boundaries of what we've been tackling so far with finance action and opens your mind at home and hopefully to your Tree about what else exists and kind of what is the thought process around all of that. So I'm very glad that we were able to go through your story. You're a risk taker, and I'm very optimistic about your future personally. I think you will do great. And I'm very glad that I had the chance as well to speak to you about all of this. So yeah, that's a little bit about my thoughts. What are your final words, Tree?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm very grateful to be here. It definitely gave me a lot of thinking on both the personal side, which we see on just like immigration stuff, Ukraine stuff, and your past struggle stuff kind of thing. Kind of give me put a word to express it. But also it gave me on the financial side, thinking about what different approaches that I can invest in certain asset classes more than just being actively involved in it.
Yes.
So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much, Romain.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys, for following along on Finance Action. We are excited to see you for the next episode. It was a pleasure, as we mentioned. And we see you guys next time. À bientôt.